Well, there's an article coming out of Debka File that I think could very well be prophetic. The title of the article is Western Strike on Syrian Chemical Sites Could Isolate Israel Against Iran, Russian Axis, and you might as well throw Turkey in there as well. Because the Bible says once it all comes down to it that Turkey and a number of other Islamic nations will take part in this attack, or should I say planned attack. I really don't think that the attack is actually going to be pulled off. I believe that God will intervene before the attack actually takes place. I think that they will be encamped about Israel's northern border, but I don't think that the attack will take place. But let me make one thing clear. They fully intend to attack Israel. But let me read a little bit from the article. It says the U.S. allied strikes in Syria have heightened Israel's apprehension about being left alone to face a possible Iranian reprisal for the T4 strike. That Israel's forces are on higher alert than ever on its northern borders with Syria and Lebanon, days before its independence anniversary celebrations, is a measure of this apprehension. The U.S., British, and French surgical missile strikes on 3 Syrian chemical sites on Saturday, April the 14th, it was realized in Jerusalem not only missed addressing Israel's security concerns, but exacerbated them. In fact, the 3 leaders of that area in Damascus, in Iran, and also the Hezbollah leader believe that this was just a slap on the wrist and did not go and was not as extensive as they thought it was going to be. In fact, Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah was the first to openly rejoice. On Sunday, he put the new situation in a nutshell. Western strikes on Syria had failed to terrorize the army, help insurgents, or even serve Israel's interest. And he wanted to make sure that we had good grounds to watch what Iran was doing, and they weren't making a lot of aggressive headway in terms of that, because Iran is a national threat to American interest. But not a word did Haley have to say on the threat posed by Iran's military presence in Syria, although that is of the greatest concern to Israel's security. But U.S. President Donald Trump still insists that he is leaving. In fact, French President Macron said that he is now backing off his claim that he had convinced Mr. Trump to stay longer in Syria. So we simply don't know when that pullback will take. But we do know that that's probably a good indication that the United States is on its way out. And that certainly is not good for Israel, but it is definitely going to serve in the purpose of fulfilling Bible prophecy. At least that's what I feel. And, you know, there's a big fluctuation as to when this Gog-Magog war will take place. I believe personally that it will probably take place at the beginning of the tribulation period once the peace with many has been declared. Some believe it will happen before the tribulation begins, but after the rapture. And there are others who believe that it may take place at any moment. But let's not also forget that there is also the possibility that this may start at the end of the tribulation period, and there's lots of reasons why that could possibly be. If you want to look up the video that I did on that particular theory, I have done 1 or 2 on that, so you might want to take a look at that. But there's certainly biblical precedent that that very well could be the time that this war does take place. Getting back to the article, it says, therefore, when President Trump said he would leave Syria to others, he apparently included Israel and Jordan, who would be left to face up to the threats posed to their borders on their own. And like I said, that sounds exactly what the Bible says will take place. Jordan's King Abdullah will soon make tracks to Damascus and seek security guarantees from Assad rather than facing a fight to defend his border. Israel, however, is left with diminished U.S. support in Syria, whereas Iran and its minions can count on ramped up Russian backing. In fact, from what I've read, Russia is now thinking of selling the S-300 anti-aircraft missile batteries to Syria. In other words, bringing them in. And certainly Israel said that would be a red line if Russia were to do that. There are also rumors out there that said that Russia is also bringing in heavy equipment. And when I say heavy equipment, I mean heavy military equipment. So from here, it looks like that Russia is building up a fortress in Syria, while the United States is looking to get out and to leave whatever mess that is there to Israel, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and others. But I still believe that there will be some type of peace with many that will come together. In fact, Mr. Trump might be saying all of this in order to bring this peace with many together quicker and to place pressure on Mr. Abbas to sign this peace accord and get on board as the modern Arab world begins to pressure them to either abandon their prerequisite of peace with Palestine and Israel and just adopting a peace process with many in Israel and the United States. So that'd be one thing that you might want to keep in mind, is that this message may be sent to the modern Arab world that they need to abandon or place a tremendous amount of pressure on Mr. Abbas to get this peace process moving, signed, and underway. You know, I do believe that Mr. Trump wants this deal of the century that no one has ever been able to accomplish, and I think he wants that as part of his legacy. And if he can force the modern Arab world to put a tremendous amount of pressure on Mr. Abbas, or force them to abandon their prerequisite that a peace with Palestine be included before they jump on board with this peace with many, that would be a major step forward and accomplishment for the Trump administration. Getting back to the article, it says that the Trump administration's decision to impose fresh sanctions on Russian entities mixed up in supplying Syria with materials for manufacturing chemical weapons moved the conflict into economic channels. This will have the effect of tightening the collaboration between Moscow and Tehran and give them greater incentive for sanctions busting. Already deepening Russian-Iranian collaboration in Syria is giving Israeli leaders sleepless nights. Iranian, Syrian, and Hezbollah officers work together in the field, share bases, and coordinate their operations. And now Tehran has just given Moscow permission to position Russian heavy strategic Tu-95 and Tu-22M bombers for operations in Syria at the Artesh Shia Noah Air Base, I guess that's how you pronounce it, in the western Iranian province of Hamadan. Israel has yet to discover how Moscow is compensating Tehran for this advantage. Clearly, Iran will have exacted payment in military coin to serve its well-known goals. So this is definitely something you want to keep an eye on, because whether or not Mr. Trump is using this as a bargaining chip against the modern Arab world, it's certainly causing Israel to get really nervous. And things certainly might be heating up as we get closer to the May 14th anniversary of Israel's 70th birthday. But I would keep my eyes on what the United States actually does come the weeks ahead, as to see if, in fact, this is just a bluff to try to hasten the moderate world into a peace with many, to bring the Palestinians in check, or one or the other. You know, it wouldn't be out of the question. In fact, it would still be biblical if, in fact, the Trump administration still made a peace with many with the modern Arab world and Israel. But we'll definitely have to keep an eye on this situation to see where it heads. And if you know the Lord, today is the day of salvation. Don't put it off. You just don't know when you're going to die. Forget about the rapture of the church. Forget about the tribulation period. You could die today. And if you did, where would you spend eternity? That's a question you need to ask yourself right now. And you Christians, you need a copy of my Tribulation Period Survival Guide. You need to get it in the hands of every lost friend and loved one that you know. You know, your time is running out. If you do plan on getting copies of my book, you need to do it now. You certainly don't want the world to tell your lost friend or loved one what they need to do once the rapture takes place and the tribulation period begins. So I would certainly make this investment. Go down to the description section of this video, click on the link, and get either the free version, which is written in 9 different languages, or the paid version, and I'd buy these things like tracts. So I'd encourage you to do that today. Well, this is Terry Malone with the Calvary Prophecy Report.